It was a quiet morning in a small town in the Philippines, where the air smelled of fresh rice and the sound of tricycles echoed through narrow streets. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky with soft orange and pink. People were waking up, opening their small sari-sari stores, and getting ready for another ordinary day. But for one man named Carlo, that morning would change his life forever. Carlo was 32, an ordinary man with tired eyes and a simple dream: to earn enough to take care of his sick mother and build a small home of their own. He worked at the nearby construction site, mixing cement and carrying heavy bags under the hot sun. Life wasn't easy, but Carlo never complained. He always said, "There's always someone who has it worse." That morning, Carlo was walking down a quiet dirt road on his way to work. He carried his lunch in a small plastic container, rice and dried fish, wrapped carefully by his mother. As he passed by an empty lot covered in tall grass, he heard something strange, a soft, high-pitched sound. It was faint at first, almost like the squeak of a rubber shoe, but then it came again, longer, sadder. A cry. Carlo stopped and listened. The sound was coming from behind an old, rusted gate that led to an abandoned warehouse. The place had been empty for years. Everyone said it was haunted, that strange things happened there at night. But Carlo wasn't the type to believe in stories. He slowly pushed the gate open. The metal screeched, and a few birds flew out from the roof. The sound came again, louder this time. It wasn't a ghost, it was a whimper. Carlo stepped closer, his eyes scanning the shadows. And that's when he saw it. A tiny, shivering dog cube, no bigger than his palm, covered in mud. Its fur was tangled, and its eyes, big and wet, looked straight at him as if begging for help. "Hey there, little one," Carlo whispered, kneeling down. The cube, more like a small puppy that looked almost square because of its matted fur, tried to stand but stumbled. Its tiny legs were trembling. Carlo noticed a small wound on its side and his heart sank. Without thinking twice, he reached into his lunchbox, took a bit of his rice, and placed it in front of the puppy. At first, the dog cube hesitated. Then, it weakly crawled toward the food and began to eat, its tiny mouth moving fast as if it hadn't eaten in days. Carlo smiled. "You must be starving, huh?" He waited until the dog finished eating, then carefully lifted it into his hands. It was so light he could barely feel its weight. He could feel its heartbeat racing against his palm. Carlo looked around, hoping someone might come by and claim it, but there was no one. The street was silent except for the rustle of leaves. He sighed. "Guess it's just you and me, little one." He wrapped the puppy in his small towel and decided to take it home before work. When he reached his small bamboo house, his mother, Aling Rosa, was sitting by the window, knitting an old piece of cloth. "Anak, why are you back? You'll be late for work," she said, raising an eyebrow. Carlo smiled sheepishly and opened the towel. "Ma, look what I found." The old woman's eyes softened as she saw the tiny creature in her son's hands. "Oh, poor baby," she whispered, gently touching the puppy's head. "It looks like it's been through so much." Carlo nodded. "Can we keep him, Ma?" "Just until he gets better." His mother hesitated. They barely had enough money for themselves, and now he wanted to take care of a dog. But when she looked at the puppy again, so weak and helpless, her heart melted. "All right," she said with a sigh, "but you'll take care of it. You'll feed it." Carlo grinned. "Promise." He placed the puppy in a small cardboard box lined with an old shirt. The puppy looked up at him with those round, pleading eyes, then slowly drifted to sleep. That night, while the rain tapped gently on the roof, Carlo sat beside the box, watching the puppy breathe. He had no idea that this small act of kindness would soon lead to something unbelievable. Something that would change not only his life, but his whole town. Days passed, and the dog cube slowly began to recover. Carlo named him Bunso, meaning the youngest. Bunso followed Carlo everywhere, when he fetched water, when he cooked, even when he repaired their broken roof. People in the neighborhood started noticing. "Carlo, your dog is so cute," one of the kids shouted one morning. Carlo laughed. "Yeah, he's a good boy." Found him near the old warehouse. But then, strange things started to happen. One night, when Carlo came home late from work, he found Bunso barking at the window, his fur standing up. Outside, the streetlight flickered. Carlo looked out and saw a man trying to break into their neighbor's house. Without thinking, Bunso jumped out of the window and ran straight toward the thief, barking like mad. The man panicked, dropped his bag, and ran away into the darkness. Carlo's neighbors came out, shocked. "Carlo! Your dog saved my house," the old neighbor cried. From that night on, Bunso became a little hero in the neighborhood. Everyone adored him. But for Carlo, Bunso was more than that. He was family. A few weeks later, something even more surprising happened. One morning, Carlo took Bunso for a walk to the same area where he found him. As they passed the warehouse, Bunso suddenly stopped. His ears perked up and he began pulling on the leash. "What is it, Bunso?" Carlo asked. Bunso barked and ran toward the side of the building. There, behind some old barrels, Carlo saw a small bag. Inside was something that made him freeze. A wallet, old and dusty, filled with cash and a small envelope. He opened the envelope and found a note. "To whoever finds this, please use it for good." Carlo looked around, confused. Who would leave something like this here? He took it home, counted the money, and realized it was enough to pay for his mother's medical checkup and even fix the roof of their house. But Carlo was an honest man. He went to the barangay office to report what he found. After days of searching, no one came to claim the money. So the barangay captain said, "If no one claims it after a month, it's yours." Carlo couldn't believe it. The same place where he found Bunso, the place he almost ignored, had now given him a miracle. He looked at Bunso, wagging his tail happily beside him, and smiled. "Looks like you brought me luck, little one." And for the first time in years, Carlo felt hope bloom inside him. Weeks turned into months, and life started to change for Carlo and his mother. The money he found, after no one claimed it, helped him fix their leaking roof and buy proper medicine for Aling Rosa. He even used some to start a small repair shop near the road, fixing bicycles and appliances for neighbors. Everyone in town started to notice the change. "Carlo, your life is turning around, huh?" One of the tricycle drivers teased as he passed by. Carlo laughed. "I guess luck finally found me." But deep inside, he didn't think it was luck. He looked down at Bunso, who was chewing on a piece of coconut husk near his feet. No, it wasn't luck. It was this little dog who had brought light back into his life. Bunso had become famous in their barangay. Kids would run after him, giggling, and even adults would stop to pat him on the head. Everyone said Bunso had a special soul, like he understood people's hearts. But one night, something strange happened again. It was past 9 in the evening. Carlo had just finished cleaning his tools and was about to close the shop when Bunso started barking outside. It wasn't his usual happy bark. It was sharp, urgent, almost like a warning. "Bunso, what is it?" Carlo asked, stepping out with a flashlight. The street was quiet. The night air was still. Then, in the distance, he saw smoke. Thick, dark smoke rising near the market. Carlo's heart dropped. "That's the market," he shouted. Without a second thought, he grabbed his small bucket, filled it with water, and ran toward the smoke. Bunso followed closely behind, barking non-stop. When they reached the market, flames were already spreading from one stall to another. People were screaming, trying to save what they could. Carlo joined the line of men passing buckets of water, shouting orders. "Faster, get more water from the well." Amid the chaos, Bunso ran toward the burning stalls, barking furiously. "Bunso, come back!" Carlo shouted, but the little dog ignored him. It disappeared behind the rows of stalls, and Carlo's heart pounded harder. He dropped his bucket and ran after him. Through the smoke and heat, he heard faint crying, not from a dog, but from a child. Carlo pushed through the flames, coughing as the smoke filled his lungs. There, behind a fallen wooden table, was a small boy, no older than 5, trapped and crying. Bunso was beside him, barking and trying to pull at his shirt. "Hang on, kid!" Carlo yelled, rushing to lift the table. His arms shook, his skin burned from the heat, but somehow he managed to move it aside. He grabbed the boy and ran out of the fire, Bunso following right behind. People cheered when they saw him emerge, holding the boy safely in his arms. "The child! He saved the child!" someone cried. But before Carlo could even catch his breath, Bunso collapsed. "Bunso!" he shouted, dropping to his knees. The little dog's fur was singed, and he was breathing weakly. Carlo's eyes filled with tears. "Stay with me, Bunso. Please." He rushed him to the nearest vet, carrying him like a baby, running through the dark streets. The vet took one look and shook her head. He inhaled too much smoke. "We'll do what we can." Hours passed. Carlo sat outside, his hands shaking, his clothes still smelling of smoke. He prayed silently, whispering words he hadn't said in years. When the vet finally came out, her eyes softened. "He's a strong one. He'll live," Carlo cried right there on the floor, thanking God over and over. Bunso stayed at the clinic for 2 weeks, recovering. During that time, the story of what happened spread all over town. The local news even came to interview Carlo. The story of the brave dog who saved a child from a market fire touched everyone's hearts. People began visiting the shop just to meet Bunso. Someone even started a small fundraiser to help Carlo pay the vet bills. Soon, Carlo wasn't just the construction worker with a dog. He became known as the man with the miracle dog. But there was still one mystery that never left his mind. Why had Bunso been in that abandoned warehouse in the first place? One Sunday after church, Carlo decided to go back there. He brought Bunso along, now healthy again, his fur shining in the sunlight. As they approached the warehouse, Bunso started wagging his tail and sniffing the ground eagerly. "Do you remember this place, Bunso?" Carlo asked softly. The dog barked once, then ran toward a corner near the gate. He started digging furiously. "What did you find this time?" Carlo said, half laughing, kneeling beside him. After a few minutes, Bunso uncovered something small, a dirty old collar. Carlo picked it up. It had a tag with faded letters. He wiped off the dirt, and his eyes widened when he read the name. It said, Buddy, and below it, a phone number. Carlo's hands trembled as he dialed the number on his old phone. After a few rings, an elderly woman answered. Hello? Good afternoon, ma'am, Carlo said. Did you lose a dog named Buddy? There was a long silence. Then a soft sob came through the phone. Oh my goodness, Buddy, the woman whispered. He went missing 2 years ago. We thought he was gone forever. Carlo felt his throat tighten. I found him, ma'am. Or maybe he found me. The woman explained that Buddy had been her husband's dog. And after her husband passed away, Buddy disappeared. She had searched everywhere but never found him. I found him, ma'am, or maybe he found me. The woman explained that Buddy had been her husband's dog. And after her husband passed away, Buddy disappeared. She had searched everywhere but never found him. When Carlo brought Bunso, Buddy, to meet her, something unbelievable happened. The moment they arrived, the old woman started crying. Buddy wagged his tail and ran straight into her arms. She hugged him tightly, whispering, You came back to me. Carlo stood there, watching, his heart heavy but full. He realized that maybe Bunso had always been meant to return home. But then, the woman turned to Carlo and said something that shocked him. You're the one who took care of him when I couldn't. Please, keep him. He's yours now. Carlo couldn't believe it. Are you sure, ma'am? She nodded, smiling through her tears. He found you for a reason. And just like that, the circle was complete. Carlo hugged Bunso tightly, whispering, Guess we're really meant to be, huh, little one? From that day forward, life only got better. His repair shop grew, and he opened another one in the next town. His mother's health improved. And every time someone asked how it all began, Carlo would smile and say, It started with a small dog cube begging for help, and a miracle that followed. Because sometimes, the most unbelievable things happen when you show a little kindness, even to the smallest of creatures. And that kindness always finds its way back to you. Months passed, and Carlo's life began to feel like something out of a dream. What started with one small act of kindness a repair shop had grown into a full business. He hired 2 helpers, both young men from the barangay, who had been struggling to find work. Every day, laughter filled the shop as they fixed fans, radios, and bicycles together. Carlo's mother, Aling Rosa, was now healthier. Her cheeks had color again, and her smile returned. She often sat outside the shop with Bunso, giving candies to passing children and telling them the story of the brave little dog who saved the town. Life finally felt peaceful. But Carlo still couldn't shake the feeling that Bunso had come into his life for something more. Like his story wasn't finished yet. One afternoon, while Carlo was working on a broken rice cooker, a man in a neat polo shirt walked up to the shop. Good afternoon, the man said with a friendly smile. Are you Carlo Dela Cruz? Yes, sir. How can I help you? The man handed him a business card. My name is Mr. Ramon. I'm from a local animal rescue foundation. We saw the story about your dog on the news a few months ago. Carlo nodded, curious. Ah, yes. Bunso, he's right there. Bunso was lying under the table, chewing happily on an old slipper. Mr. Ramon bent down and patted his head. He's quite famous, you know. Everyone in the rescue community was touched by what he did. Then the man looked up at Carlo with a warm smile. We'd like to invite you and Bunso to speak at our event next week. We want to share your story, to remind people about kindness and second chances. Carlo's eyes widened. Me? Speak? I don't know if I can... Mr. Ramon chuckled. Don't worry. Just tell the truth. People need to hear it. Carlo agreed, though he was nervous. He had never spoken in front of a crowd before. When the day finally came, the small auditorium in Manila was packed with people. Families, students, volunteers, and animal lovers. Some even recognized Bunso the moment they entered. Cameras flashed as he wagged his tail and greeted everyone. Carlo stood on stage, his heart pounding. He looked out at the sea of faces waiting to hear his story. He took a deep breath. Good afternoon, everyone, he began softly. My name is Carlo. I'm just an ordinary man from a small town. But one day I met someone who changed my life completely. He looked down at Bunso, who sat quietly beside him, ears perked. He was small, dirty, and weak when I found him. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something. Hope. I thought I was saving him that day. But the truth is, he saved me. The crowd grew silent. Carlo continued, his voice trembling slightly. Because of him, I learned that kindness, even a small one, can grow bigger than we can ever imagine. He reminded me that even when life is hard, there's always something good waiting, if you choose to care. As he finished, people stood up and clapped. Some even wiped tears from their eyes. Bunso barked once, as if saying thank you, and the audience laughed and cheered. After the event, reporters approached Carlo, asking to feature his story on national television. Within days, videos of Carlo and Bunso's journey went viral online. Comments flooded in. "I cried watching this. Faith in humanity restored. This dog is a true angel. Carlo deserves all the blessings in the world." The video reached millions of views. People from all over the Philippines, even from other countries, sent messages of love and support. Some offered to donate to Carlo's shop. Others said they were inspired to adopt or rescue dogs too. Carlo was overwhelmed. He never asked for fame or money, only peace. But now he realized his story had become a light for others. One night, as he sat outside his home watching the stars, his mother joined him with 2 cups of warm salabat tea. "You've come so far, Anak," she said softly. Carlo smiled. "I just followed where kindness led me." "You've come so far, Anak," she said softly. Carlo smiled. "I just followed where kindness led me." Bunso lay at their feet, eyes half closed, tail wagging slowly. "Do you think he knows how much he's changed everything?" Carlo asked. His mother chuckled. "Dogs always know, Carlo. They just show it in silence." Carlo reached down and petted Bunso gently. "Thank you, little one. You gave us hope." Bunso barked softly as if to say, "You're welcome." From that night on, Carlo decided to dedicate part of his earnings to helping stray dogs in his town. He built small feeding stations near the market and started volunteering with the animal rescue group that had invited him. The people in town followed his example. Kids would leave food out for dogs. Shop owners built small shelters by their doors. Slowly, the community transformed. All because of one small act of kindness that began with a tiny dog cube begging for help. A year later, a new event was held in the town plaza. The mayor unveiled a small bronze statue. A man kneeling beside a little dog reaching out a hand. At the bottom of the statue, the plaque read, "Kindness starts small, but it changes everything." Carlo stood in front of it, holding Bunso in his arms. Reporters took pictures, children clapped, and old neighbors smiled with pride. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and orange, the same color as the morning when Carlo had first found Bunso in that empty, forgotten lot. He whispered, "We did it, Bunso. We really did." Bunso wagged his tail, licking Carlo's cheek. And for the first time in a long while, Carlo felt completely at peace. He had once thought that miracles were only for the lucky, but now he knew. Miracles were born from love, from compassion, and from the courage to stop and care when the world tells you to walk away. The unbelievable had happened, not because of magic, but because one man chose kindness, and one tiny dog believed in him. And as long as that story lived in the hearts of others, it would keep happening again and again. Because sometimes, the smallest bark can change the biggest world. 5 years later, the town of San Rafael looked different. The dusty roads were now paved, small gardens bloomed in every corner, and at the center of town stood the statue of Carlo and Bunso, shining under the morning sun. Tourists often stopped by to take photos. Children ran around the plaza, pointing and laughing. But for the people who had lived there all their lives, that statue was more than metal. It was a reminder that even the smallest act of love can grow into something bigger than anyone could imagine. Carlo was now 60, still the same humble man, though his hands showed the marks of years of hard work. His repair business had grown into a real shop, with a sign that read, "Bunso's Repair and Rescue Center." Half of the space was for fixing broken things, the other half for rescuing and caring for abandoned animals. Every morning, before opening the shop, Carlo would light a candle in front of Bunso's small picture frame on the wall. Because 3 months earlier, Bunso had passed away peacefully in his sleep. He had grown old, his fur turning white, but his spirit never faded. The whole town came together to say goodbye. Even the mayor, teachers, and children who had once played with him. It was the first time the church had ever been filled not for a person, but for a dog. Carlo missed him every day. Sometimes, he still felt Bunso's presence. The soft patting of paws on the floor, the faint sound of a bark carried by the wind. But instead of sadness, what he felt most of all was gratitude. Because Bunso had given him something that never died. Purpose. One Saturday morning, as Carlo fixed an old fan, a little boy walked into the shop holding a box. "Sir Carlo," the boy said shyly, "I found this by the river." Inside the box was a small, wet puppy, weak, trembling, its eyes barely open. Carlo's heart melted instantly. It was just like the day he had met Bunso. He smiled and said, "You did a good thing, kid. Let's help him together." The boy nodded eagerly. "Can I come here every day to feed him?" "Of course," Carlo said. "We'll call him Junior." And just like that, a new story began. The shop slowly became a place of hope, where broken machines and broken souls were fixed side by side. Carlo started teaching kids how to care for animals. He showed them how to build small wooden shelters, how to feed strays gently, and how to be patient. Soon, every barangay in town had a bunso box, a small wooden feeder where people could leave food and water for hungry animals. It wasn't just kindness anymore. It had become culture. One afternoon, a young journalist came to interview Carlo again. She asked, "Sir, after all these years, do you still think about bunso?" Carlo smiled softly. "Every day. He's in everything I do, in every bark I hear, in every rescued animal I hold. He taught me that kindness never really ends. It just moves from one heart to another." The journalist nodded, wiping a tear. "Do you ever wish you had done things differently?" Carlo looked out the window. The street was alive with laughter. Kids feeding strays, people walking dogs, the smell of home-cooked meals drifting through the air. He shook his head. "No, everything happened the way it was meant to. If I hadn't stopped that day to help a small dog cube, none of this would exist. Bunso didn't just change my life, he changed a whole town." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Carlo locked up the shop and walked to the plaza. He sat on the bench near Bunso's statue, watching the sky turn orange and gold. A gentle wind passed, rustling the trees. For a moment, Carlo swore he heard a familiar bark. Soft, joyful, free. He smiled. "Good boy, Bunso," he whispered. "Keep watching over us." The church bells rang in the distance, and somewhere nearby, the little puppy named Junior barked back, his voice echoing through the town. Carlo laughed, eyes shining. "See, the story continues." Because it did. Every rescued dog, every smiling child, every act of kindness that spread through San Rafael carried a piece of Bunso's spirit. And so, long after the brave little dog was gone, his miracle lived on. Not in wealth, not in fame, but in hearts that had learned to care. Years later, when people told the story to their children, they always began the same way. There was once a dog cube who begged a Filipino man for help. But then, the unbelievable happened. And each time those words were spoken, someone somewhere remembered to pause, to reach out, to help, to care. Because Bunso's story wasn't just about a dog. It was about what makes us human. It was about the power of kindness to heal even the deepest wounds. And as long as that story was told, the spirit of that tiny dog would keep running through the hearts of everyone who heard it. Free, happy, and full of love. If a small act of kindness can change one life, imagine what millions could do. Be someone's miracle. Because kindness always finds its way home.